You know what I feel like playing? Crash Bandicoot. Wait a second. That's not Crash Bandicoot. That's not Crash Bandicoot at all. That's an imposter.
You're the devil in disguise.
No, this isn't Crash Bandicoot. Instead, this is a thinly veiled copycat game entitled Lilo and Stitch: Trouble in Paradise. And as we can see from this title card, it looks like it's gonna be fucking manic! The game loosely follows the plot of the movie, and when I say loosely, I mean very loosely. So loosely, in fact, I genuinely had no idea it was following the plot of the movie until about halfway through. No, really. The reason for this is that the levels are all very alike, and bear a strong resemblance to the level designs of the Crash Bandicoot series. Heck, even one of Stitch's attacks is practically identical to Crash's spin attack. So yeah, this is essentially a Crash Bandicoot ripoff, with some key differences. For instance, there are some additional attacks and collectibles. Lilo attacks by, doing voodoo, whatever the game developers expect us to think that entails.
Voodoo, voodoo. You do.
Ooh, Lilo's voodoo spoon. I wonder what this does.
I don't think anybody was expecting that.
Apparently Lilo's voodoo powers can occasionally summon half-naked men.
Oi, oi. What a power. Think you can teach me that? Turns out you can do all kinds of hoodoo with voodoo. Who knew? I'll stop now.
The enemies in this game aren't all that interesting and mostly require just one hit to take out, but visually they're all very diverse, ranging from lizards and scorpions to laser gun-wielding aliens and,
Guess what? Giant spiders. Roll the clip!
Giant spider alert!
Ah, but not only that, we see the return of our other giant nemesis, the evil giant lobster.
Giant lobster alert!
I genuinely had no intention of ever using that screen again, but here we are!
The repetitive formulaic level design is a little tedious, but the utilization of both characters does help to alleviate it. Slightly. Lilo's only other attack is her bum bash, which is a physical marvel. Aiming Lilo's bum is a surprisingly awkward task. I imagine I've caused the poor girl a lot of unnecessary pain to the coccyx.
Sorry there, honeybee.
Stitch, meanwhile, can not only mimic this same attack, but also spit a green substance from a distance.
Delightful. I always wanted a pet. Yeah.
Amazingly, his saliva is somehow corrosive. It can dissolve rock in an instant. And pigs.
Yeah. Well, that would be a hell of a lot more gruesome where there's not a Disney game.
The general public generally seems to represent some of the strangest hazards. It wouldn't be so bad if they appeared as though they were unintentionally blocking your path, but they seem to intentionally try to hurt you. These sweeping women seem to be sweeping for no apparent reason other than to hit you. Seriously, what are they sweeping? Their gaze even creepily follows you as you stroll past them. And I've met some rude people, but this man on the beach is something else. Ordinarily, if you bump into someone, you'd politely ask them to move or apologize. This guy just proceeds to kick little girls when they get in his way. Because that's a respectable thing to do.
Oh, that's nice. Way to ruin his little girl's day at the beach, bitch. Maybe we should call the authorities. Where's Bubbles when you need him?
Things have indeed gone wrong.
The collectibles, meanwhile, are pretty strange. Stitch collects what looks to be full cups of coffee, which people obviously just leave lying around for some reason. Collecting them gradually fills this gauge in the bottom corner. Consume enough and you get to roll around and bounce through the level for a limited time. A little bit like the Ooga Booga Tiki thing in Crash. The issue with this, though, is that while it's always fun to go berserk and kill things,
Speaking from experience, of course.
the levels often require a lot of platforming, meaning this attack isn't always ideal. You can jump while performing it, but Stitch kinda meanders all over the place. Lilo, meanwhile, collects flowers. No, wait. She collects melons. Pineapples. Sorry, that's coconuts.
Okay, she just collects random stuff for seemingly no reason. Not like in any other Disney game at all. Except, Okay, I think we get the point.
Collecting snapshots opens viewable photos in the gallery.
Ooh. Wow! Look at this! Ooh. Wow! Look at this! Ooh. Ooh.
Anyway, at the beginning of the game, we see Nani, Lilo's big sister, who now looks after her.
So I'll meet you in town at 1 o'clock, okay?
Meet in town for 1 o'clock. Gotta remember that. Yeah, we never see her again for the entire game. But for what this game lacks in continuity, I'm sure it more than makes up for it in its painstakingly accurate Hawaiian setting. Right?
Yeah!
Then again, maybe not.
Indeed, the paths are laden with man-eating plants and explosive barrels.
Perfectly safe for any child to wander through unsupervised, but do remember to meet Nani at 1 o'clock, okay? Because that's good parenting.
Each area requires you to collect a set number of a particular item, as well as the standard collectibles we've already mentioned. Later levels see you locate Elvis records that people have apparently just thrown out into the wilderness.
Philistines. Don't know good music when they hear it.
And the final areas require you to locate tracking devices used to find Stitch, planted by,
Oh, what's his name now? Gesundheit.
The early stages, however, see you collect photographs for Lilo's war.
Ripping stuff.
Although, bizarrely, this doesn't actually mean taking a load of your own photos, these are just Polaroids that happen to be lying around, meaning logically they could be pictures of anything.
And I mean anything, you dirty bastards out there.
After the first level, we make it to the hula school. Oh, hello!
Are you here to teach me how to hula?
Oh, perhaps not.
That wasn't nice! Just for that, I'ma do voodoo on you.
Yes, before you can progress on another Crash-style obstacle course, you must defeat one of these big rock guardian things. As the game progresses, these things don't really get any tougher. The battles just last longer.
Which is, of course, what we all wanted. All of us. Don't deny it.
You simply have to avoid the rock monster's projectiles and close combat attacks, and then its vulnerable spot becomes noticeable. Like, extremely noticeable. It may as well have a big neon sign on it reading "Hit Me." And it wouldn't be so bad if the weak spot wasn't in the exact same place on every rock monster. No, really, every boss segment is near enough identical and completely pointless. Every time you reach the end of one of the obstacle course type levels and reach a save point, represented by one of these mailboxes for some reason, one of these rock people is inexplicably waiting there to crush the life out of you. I don't remember this scene in the movie. There's no explanation as to who they are, but Jesus Christ, some variation would have been nice. In terms of the mundanity, the same goes for the standard levels. The basic goal of every level is to get to the end without dying.
That's how I live every day. Gets harder by the day.
Which is surprisingly difficult when even the plants want to eat you, and there is a horrifying amount of explosives lying around considering Lilo and the other kids are allowed to roam around of their own accord. Lilo is able to pick up red explosive barrels and place them closer to obstacles and enemies to clear a path. Apparently Nani is okay with this?
Yeah, you're allowed to pick up and carry explosives, Lilo. But don't forget to meet Nani at 1 o'clock, okay? Wouldn't want anyone to think she's a bad role model or anything.
Despite the many hazards, each level is pretty similar, and aside from the odd chase level or side-scrolling level, there's not much variation and they all seem to blend into one. Not all of the levels follow this boring format, however. One level pits Lilo against Myrtle on a tricycle for no reason. It seems a bit unfair though, considering she has a set of wheels and I don't, and my path is laden with pitfalls.
Cheating bitch.
Yeah, I don't know who's responsible for the paving in this town, but I'm pretty sure most of this should be barricaded off from the general public. Imagine simply walking to school and fearing falling into an unexplained chasm in the ground, or going for a bike ride and being blown to smithereens. To be fair to them though, the kids seem to recover pretty quickly.
Perhaps they've developed an immunity to explosives.
Shortly afterwards, we bump into social worker Cobra Bubbles, who tells Lilo in the most sinister way possible,
Why don't you try leading by example and go home like a good girl?
to which Lilo simply says,
Okay.
and he just walks away, just like that. While it's nice to see the other characters incorporated into this lazily constructed game, methinks he was probably a little too easily convinced by this.
They're not very good at looking after children's welfare in this town, I take it.
The chase levels quite frankly freak me the fuck out. This level sees Stitch hunted down by this nightmare creatures reject. Seriously, what the hell is that thing? Nobody knows. The level just sort of ends after a train cuts him off. And apparently nobody questions this thing's existence. So do we ever find out who this guy is and what he has to do with the plot?
Do we buggery?
No, the next level sees you take your mind off the whole bizarre incident for good by taking a stroll around some gardens, where someone has apparently carved images of Lilo and Stitch into some rock for no reason.
Creepy stuff. Sounds like somebody's been stalking us and not being too subtle about it either. Where's that social worker when you need him? Oh, here he is!
Lilo. Come here. Stay there.
Oh my god! Somehow he's even more terrifying!
By far the creepiest chase sequence for me is the one featuring Cobra Bubbles.
No!
Maybe it's the monotone voiceover, or the big clomping footsteps, or maybe the fact that it can burst through explosive barrels without a scratch. Either way, this level is the stuff of nightmares.
Jesus Christ! Even the social worker is kicking little girls in the face. There's no hope for you, Lilo. I didn't even think it was possible to feel any less safe. What's wrong with this world?
Most annoying level, Jumba. Another chase level sees you chased by Pleakley and Jumba, who looks unexpectedly happy to see me, and it is probably my favourite, even if it is pretty much exactly the same as all the others, just with a really annoying laser hazard. It's not the only annoying aspect of the level, however, as this level requires some seriously well-timed jumps, which are difficult to execute with the lagging controls. Jumba's jump also sounds painful. I think he may have given himself a hernia or something. Anyway, towards the end of the game, the enemies become a lot more diverse, at least visually. Unfortunately, they're not really much tougher than the ones that preceded them. It's actually pretty pathetic. Now let's talk about the ending, which is also a major disappointment.
Why would we expect anything more?
Jumba and Pleakley failed to capture Stitch while remaining undercover, so just like in the movie, the council sends the biggest, strongest, most conspicuous alien, Captain Gantu, in search of Stitch, essentially completely disregarding the concept of trying to remain undercover.
Because, you know, they couldn't think of a better, more logical ending. Burn.
Consequently, the final level sees Stitch pursued by Gantu's ship, firing lasers at you in exactly the same way as Jumba. So this is not only completely unoriginal, I've already played this level earlier in the same game. It's pretty easy, although I have to admit I mistakenly took the wrong path at one point. I say wrong path, I actually veered off the path entirely and seemingly willingly jumped to my death.
Maybe it's a sign I subconsciously wanted to. I do love the little scream he does when he burns to death. That's probably the most anticlimactic death I've ever seen. You want to ham it up a little, mate? Now I'm pretty sure Buzz Lightyear's got some tips.
And that's literally it. The final level is barely any different to any previous ones, which really emphasizes the overall laziness of this game.
Wow!
So there we have it. Lilo and Stitch, Trouble in Paradise. Well, that was a boring pile of pointlessness. Okay, I will give the game some credit. It controls fairly decently. It's far from the best, however. There were times I was able to save myself from falling by inexplicably jumping on thin air. But overall, it's okay. Some aspects are pretty creative, such as Stitch's ball rolling attack and Lilo's bizarre and questionable half-naked man summoning. But the execution is pretty standard fare. It doesn't much feel like Lilo and Stitch, but a Crash Bandicoot ripoff, which it is.
Ooh.
Hey everyone, hope you've enjoyed this series of animated movie tie-ins. Just so you all know, I am launching my own Patreon, so if you wanted to support this channel, I'd be very grateful. I'm not expecting everybody to jump on board right away since this page has just been launched and I haven't really done anything with it yet. But for the next series, I'm intending to upload one video per month. I'll provide a link in the description below, and follow me on social media for any updates. This is all very new to me, so go easy on me. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.